Very Old Friends is the scene that I consider to be our first proper introduction to Bilbo Baggins. He is an exceptional hobbit who stands out amongst his peers. Not only is he a rarity amidst the Shire folk with his love of adventuring beyond their borders, but also known for holding a high place of significance and numerous friends with dwarves, elves, one well-known wizard, and even a few men. His renown is also held among the children and young adults of the Shire from his tales of trolls, goblins, dragons, and grand battles that he was witness to. As we see him now, he is an eccentric old hobbit who is protective of his peace, quiet, and his beloved nephew Frodo. As well, he is inviting and cordial to his friends, as we can see from Gandalf's visit. Bilbo's friends also relish their time with him. This is shown particularly when Bilbo and Gandalf sit on the front lawn of Bag End at night blowing smoke rings. It reminds me of times when I'm catching up with very old friends. Gandalf knocking on the door to Bag End was Ian McKellen's first day of shooting. In fact, Ian Holm was not currently on set. Both Gandalf and Bilbo were played by scale doubles for their respective characters, for the shot when Bilbo runs through the door to give Gandalf a hug. Ian Holm was Peter Jackson's first choice to play Bilbo Baggins. The actor was at the top of the wish list even before the project had been greenlit. Gandalf passing his staff and hat to Bilbo is the first blue-screen composite shot used to portray the scale of the hobbits. Ian McKellen was filmed on a blue-screen set, while Ian Holm was filmed on set using double-scale props. Later, the two scenes were blended digitally. The design for Bag End was based on an illustration by conceptual designer John Howe that was commissioned by HarperCollins Publications years prior in 1995. The piece is titled Bilbo's Front Hall, and was inspired by Tolkien's rendering of the entryway, along with Norwegian medieval churches. Peter Jackson wanted Howe to, essentially, turn on his heel and create the remainder of Bag End. Howe wanted Bag End to have a warm, cozy, and homey feel, like that of a traditional English country home, but with more rounded edges. He truly wanted Bag End to be an idealized cottage that one would wish to retire to. Gandalf banging his head on the rafter was an accident. However, Ian McKellen continued the performance and really sells the remainder of the shot. The whole thing worked so well that it was kept in the final cut. Henry Mortensen, Viggo's son, did the research to ensure that Thorin's map of the Lonely Mountain had indeed survived the years and could have, conceivably, been in Bilbo's possession. Henry played another important role in ensuring that the films turned out as they did. However, we won't be touching on that for a few more scenes. Two separate sets were constructed for Bag End, one at a standard scale for the shots of Bilbo and Frodo, and one at half scale for the shots of Gandalf. This means that not only the interior had to be replicated twice, but every prop seen in the whole. Every paper, book, table, chair, vase, and candlestick had been made twice in two different scales. Gandalf and Bilbo having tea at the table is a single shot using forced perspective, which involves the actors being farther apart from each other, using depth to create an illusion of scale. The dining room table is, in fact, split in half with a 4 to 5 foot gap between, with Gandalf's side being smaller than Bilbo's. The illusion is slightly broken when Gandalf sits down and only his half of the table shakes. The teapot lid that Gandalf raises and lowers was sitting on a rod on his side of the table. The object is lined up with the camera so it appears to be on the pot when it is actually several feet away. What makes this scene special, along with several others in this film, is how the camera moves during the forced perspective shots. Before this movie, forced perspective could only be achieved using a stationary camera that could turn and pivot but not move. This is because the movement of the camera would break the illusion as the distance of the objects on screens becomes revealed. The filmmakers created a technique to allow the camera to move by placing both the camera and one of the actors, along with the props, on a rail dolly that would move in conjunction with each other to maintain the proper spacing and distance. Peter Jackson had prepared himself for a fight with the studio over the smoking scene, as smoking in movies has been seen for a long time as not being politically correct. However, no resistance was given. Peter Jackson got his oft-fantasized smoke boat flying through Bilbo's smoke ring on the big screen. Additionally, John Howe recalled audiences cheering as the boat sailed into the horizon. The The state of Bag End very much reflects Bilbo's personality. There is no filth or muck to be seen in the hole, and from the outside it is quite pristine. But within is a chaotic yet charming organization through disorder. He rarely puts away the books and papers of which he rifles through, leaving a trail of clutter clinging to the walls and outer edges of the floor, though few areas are dusty and dirty, meaning that he must occasionally clean the room, though he does not want his stacks of papers to be moved from their place. I love seeing, in future scenes, the slight contrast of Bag End as it passes from the current owner to the next. Many of the effects used in this scene may seem rudimentary by modern standards, particularly with the prevalence and great strides made by CGI in the past couple of decades. However, these illusions were nearly unheard of in 2001, much like how Star Wars had captivated the previous generation with its leaps and bounds in the world of effects. The Lord of the Rings films achieved the same for my generation. Though the subtleties of forced perspective with a moving camera went virtually unnoticed by my then 11-year-old conscious self, these scenes captivated me in a way that I would not properly recognize until years later, when I first went through the special features for The Fellowship of the Ring. Even the blue screen composite shots were blended so well that, at the time, it was a marvel to behold. Previous iterations of blue or green screen shots were more noticeable and typically needed a large action sequence to distract the viewer from noticing the differences in lighting and texture between the objects on screen. In retrospect, the staff pass does hold some flaws that are noticeable to the critical eye. However, in 2001, the illusion was a sight of true magic being seen by audiences worldwide for the very first time.